Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Digo Bhaktivinode. So continue reading from Chaitanya Shikshamrta by Bhaktivinode Thakur. Was published, I believe, 1886, right around there, the end of the 18th century. And it's very, very detailed, incredible presentation, very practical knowledge of implementing devotional life. And Bhaktivinode Thakur was the great devotee who uncovered the path of devotional service, which had been covered over by so many mistaken ideas and illusions about what the message of Godhead is, who Lord Chaitanya is. There were so many false sampradayas and contaminated teachings, and so-called authorities on the path were all contaminated material conceptions. And his writings were responsible for reestablishing the authenticity of bhakti yoga. And his writings were very well received by the intelligent people of the time. So very, very much indebted to Bhaktivinode Thakur for all the work he did to reestablish the line of devotion. So this is, it's a very detailed, he's very, very detailed in his writing. Leaves no stone unturned. Get rid of the sound effects here. So this is chapter 2, and this is part 3. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paskitadi Satarni. This is qualification for work and varnas. Identifying one's qualification is a very important item of conduct. This qualification is of two types: qualification for a certain action and the extent of qualification for action. All people are not qualified for all types of punya activities. Though a person may be able to perform a certain activity, he may not be qualified to execute it in such a way to produce the desired auspicious result. If a person performs an action without first seeing his suitability to do it, one cannot say if the act will bring the intended result. For that reason, it's necessary to consider one's qualifications. As the performer cannot judge his own qualification, he must inquire from an authority or guru on this matter. And in undertaking a particular rite, a priest must decide on the suitable process. Thus, people must accept a qualified guru and a qualified priest. The modern method of accepting guru and priest is not the process envisioned by the writers of Scripture. Accepting guru and priest as a matter of formality is simply useless. One must choose a qualified person. If such a person does not exist in the locality, one must search elsewhere. Giving an example will make this clearer. Digging ponds is a punya karma. If personally digging, one is qualified if he has enough strength, tools, a piece of land, and assistance. If expenses are to be incurred, money is also necessary. A person is qualified for the act to the extent that he has strength, tools, land, assistance, and money. Without these items, insufficient quantity, there will be no result except loss of energy, time, and money. For marriage, the qualification is a healthy body, ability to support a family, and a mentality suitable for living with a wife. In desiring to perform any act, a person should see his qualification. Qualification may be intrinsic or circumstantial. Man has 3 divisions of life: time of learning, educational period, time of work, and time of recreation. During education, the person studies books, associates with others, sees others working, receives instruction. What tendency emerges prominently at this time is the intrinsic nature of the person. Though a person usually gets association, instruction, and information under influence of the family in which he is born, sometimes his instruction, association, and nature are different from that of his family. Thus, the person may have a different nature than that of his family. That nature which is perceived in a person after his education and before he takes up work is his intrinsic nature. The wise have scientifically classified nature into 4 types: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Those who have sense control, mind control, tolerance, purity, forgiveness, non-duplicity, cultivation of knowledge, and faith, worship of the Lord, have Brahminical nature. Those who have valor, energy, determination, dexterity, fearlessness in battle, charitable inclination, ability to protect others, ability to control others, have Kshatriya nature. Those who are inclined to agriculture, raising cows, trade, have Vaishya nature, and those who maintain their life by serving others have Sudra nature. Those who do not distinguish proper from improper action have no inclination for righteousness, are fond of argument, are extremely selfish, think only of food, and are devoid of marriage rules, are called antyaja, or outcast. Without giving up such a nature, the real nature of a human being does not manifest. Only 4 classes are admitted as human. According to nature, a person possesses certain qualities. According to those qualities, a person should accept work and duty. If one performs work contradictory to one's nature, it will not give proper result. It is hard to change a nature once matured. Therefore, one should work and worship according to one's nature. According to these natures, the people of India were classed in 4 varnas. If society is divided according to the varnas, all the work in society becomes effective. This is beneficial for the whole world. That society which has the varnas as a scientific basis and is worshipable by all. Some people may question the efficacy of varnashram system, since the countries of Europe attained great feats and fame without having a varnashram system. But such a doubt has no substance because these people are all recent. Due to being very bold and energetic, they've taken up the previous skills, arts, and scientists and begun to act. But gradually with time, these societies will fail because of lack of scientific organization of varnas. Though the Aryan civilization is much older, it has remained intact with the same characteristics because of the varnashram system. The Roman and Greek civilizations were much more powerful than modern European nations, but where are they now? Those peoples have become devoid of their previous qualities and taken up the qualities and lifestyle of the modern nations. They've become so transformed that they have no pride in their previous glory. Though the Aryan civilization is much more ancient than that of the Greeks and Romans, even now the people of India take pride in their ancient heroes. Why is that? Because the varnashram system remained strong. The culture of the society was preserved and not lost. Though the Ranas were defeated by the Muslims, even today they identify themselves as the descendants of Ramachandra's line. Though the people of India may have declined to a decrepit state with age, as long as the varnashram system is practiced, the Aryan identity will also remain. The Roman and other peoples who were offshoots of Vedic civilization declined as they mixed with outcast cultures such as Huns and Vandals. If one examines modern European cultures, one will notice that all its remarkable feats are due to preservation of varnas based upon intrinsic nature of the individual. Those who have the nature of merchants prefer that occupation, and by that profession obtain their progress. Those who have Kshatriya nature join the military. Those who are Sudra in nature prefer to do menial service. Actually, no society can exist without a division of varnas. Even in matching for marriage, nature and occupational status have to be considered. Though the European nations incorporated some aspects of varnas, the varnas were not systematically established there. Civilization and knowledge advance in proportion to the degree of the systematization of the varnas. There are two methods of approach, systematic and unsystematic. Things work ineffectively if a systematic method is not followed. If we do not follow a scientific procedure for making a boat, then we have to use a primitive craft for crossing the water. In the same way, as long as the varnas are not scientifically incorporated, society will continue to run on an unscientific basis. Except for India, all places remain unscientific incorporation of varnas. That's why India alone is known as the place of action, karma, and kshetra. In the system of varna in India, now in a healthy state? No. Though the system was established in a perfect way, it gradually deteriorated, and that is responsible for the troubles and degradation of present India. If that were not the case, India could have taken the role of an elder brother who in old age and retirement could give good instruction to other nations. One should deeply consider the reason for India's deteriorated state. The varnashram system was established in India in the beginning of Treta Yuga, at which time the Aryans had advanced knowledge. The rule was established that each person took a varna according to his nature, and getting a qualification through that varna, he would carry out his duties and work designated by the varna. By following the system of ashram and varna according to nature, the work of society went on smoothly. Varna was decided solely on the basis of nature for those whose father had no varna. Jabali, Gautama, Janashruti, and Tritarata are examples from Vedic history. For those whose father had a varna, their varna was decided on the basis of both the father's varna and the individual nature. From the Kshatriya dynasty of Narashanta, the great Sri Jatukarna appeared, who started a famous Brahmin lineage called Agnivesha. In the Aila dynasty, Janu, the son of Hotra, became a Brahmin. Hotraka became a Brahmin. From King Vitatatta of Bharadvaja's dynasty came Nara and others who were Kshatriyas, and Garga, who was a Brahmin. In King Bharmaswa's Kshatriya line were born Satananda of the Maudgalya Gotra and Kripacharya. There are many examples like this in the scriptures showing that birth is not the only qualification for occupation. When the actual system was practiced, the glory of India was as strong as the midday sun. All nations worshipped the inhabitants of Bharata as rulers, administrators, and teachers. Egypt, China, and other countries used to take instruction from the people of India with great reverence. The varnashram system continued purely for a long time, until Jamadagni and his son Parashuram of Kshatriya nature claimed themselves as Brahmins. By following a varna contrary to their nature out of self-interest, they created friction between the Brahmin and Kshatriya classes. Because of this seed of enmity between the two classes, the procedure of judging varna by birth became fixed. In time, this system of varnas, without reference to nature, entered covertly in the Manu Samhita and other scriptures. Without possibility of attaining a higher varna out of frustration, the Kshatriyas created Buddhism to destroy the Brahmin varna. But for every action there is an equally strong reaction. Therefore, the class distinction based on birth became even stronger. With the conflict between exploitation of position based on birth, the Brahmins, and disloyalty to one's culture, Kshatriya, they gradually destroyed themselves. Those with no Brahmin qualities, Brahmins in name only, began to write scriptures with their own interests at heart, thus cheating the other classes. Kshatriyas, without Kshatriya qualities, were defeated in battle. Without their kingdoms, they began to support Buddhism. Vaishyas, without Vaishya nature, began to preach Jainism. By this act, the great mercantile community became weakened. Laborers, without Sudra nature, without qualification for works of specific nature, became thieves. Running without any scriptural reference, the country became under the control of the Muslims. Shipping companies entered. The concept of service vanished. Gradually, the influence of Kali deepened. The present pitiful condition of India, which was once the controller and teacher of the whole world, is not because of old age, but because of the corruption of the Varnashram system. By the desire of the Lord, the controller of all living beings and rules, may there again rise in India an empowered person who can establish the Varnashram system. The writer of the Puranas also expectantly await the action of Kalki. According to the scriptures, a person is qualified for action according to his varna. In this book, it will be impossible to discuss this in detail. A Brahmin is qualified for the following activities: feeding guests, bathing 3 times a day, deity worship, reading the Vedas, teaching, serving as priest, taking vows, leading the life of a brahmachari and sannyasi. And the Kshatriya is qualified for righteous war, ruling a kingdom, protecting the citizens, works of charity and social relief. The Vaishya is qualified for raising and protecting animals, agriculture, and commerce. The Sudra is qualified for serving the deity without mantras and serving the 3 higher varnas. All men and women of all varnas are qualified for marriage rites, worship of the Lord, helping others in distress, charity, service to Guru, welcoming guests, purity of body and mind, observing festivals, serving the cow, maintaining the population, and proper conduct. Women's special qualification is serving the husband. A person should do that work and follow those rules of Varna which are most suitable to his nature. By honest judgment, persons can determine the work and lifestyle most suitable to himself. If he cannot do so, he should consult a competent authority. Those Vaishnavas who would like additional information on these matters should consult Gopal Bhatta Goswami's Sat Kriya Sara Dipika. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, cleanliness, satisfaction, tolerance, simple straightforwardness, devotion to me, mercy, truthfulness are the natural qualities of the Brahmins. Dynamic power, bodily strength, determination, heroism, tolerance, generosity, great endeavor, steadiness, devotion to the Brahmins, and leadership are the natural qualities of the Kshatriya. Faith in Vedic civilization, dedication to charity, Vedic civilization, dedication to charity, freedom from hypocrisy, service to the Brahmins, and perpetually desiring to accumulate more money are the natural qualities of the Vaishyas. Service without duplicity to the Brahmins, cows, demigods, and other worshipful personalities, and complete satisfaction with whatever income is obtained by such service are the natural qualities of the Sudras. Nonviolence, truthfulness, honesty, desire for the happiness and welfare of all others, freedom from lust, anger, and greed constitute duties for all members of society. In the beginning, in Satya Yuga, there's only one social class called Hamsa. to which all human beings belong. In that age, all people are unalloyed devotees of the Lord from birth, and thus learned scholars call this first age Krita Yuga, or the age in which all religious duties are perfectly fulfilled. In Satya Yuga, the Veda is expressed by the syllable Om, and I am the only object of mental activities. I become manifest as the four-legged bull of religion, and thus the inhabitants of Satya Yuga, fixed in austerity and free from all sins, worship me as Lord Hamsa. O greatly fortunate one, at the beginning of Treta Yuga, Vedic knowledge appeared from my heart, which is the abode of the air of life, in 3 divisions, Rig, Sama, and Yajur. Then from that knowledge I appeared as threefold sacrifice. In Treta Yuga, the 4 social orders were manifested from the universal form of the personality of Godhead. The Brahmins appeared from the Lord's face, the Kshatriyas from the Lord's arms, the Vaishyas from the Lord's thighs, and Sudras from the legs of that mighty form. Each social division was recognized by its particular duties and behaviors. It is abominable for a person living in the Grihastha ashram to give up regulative principles, for a brahmachari not to follow the brahmachari vows while living under the care of the guru, for the vanaprastha to live in the village and engage in so-called social activities, or the sannyasi to be addicted to sense gratification. One who acts in this way is to be considered the lowest renegade. Such a pretender is bewildered by the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one should either reject him from any position or, taking compassion on him, teach him, if possible, to resume his original position. And those last several statements were from various parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's the end of part 3.